Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MarkkinointiKollektiivin Aamukahviseura, the morning coffee club. My name is Emmi Paunonen, and today my colleague Teemu Ilola will take the stage with Alexander Augustesen from Zuuvi, and Alexander will give us good tips on how to make your ads stand out. Now I will change the language briefly to Finnish as I send greetings from our main partner. Eli tosiaan lämpimiä terveisiä meidän pääkumppanilta myynnin ja markkinoinnin ammattilaiset MM:ltä. Heillä on tällä hetkellä käynnissä ihan tosi tärkeä palkkatutkimus, mikä auttaa kehittää alaa ja antaa mahdollisuuden vaikuttaa palkkatasapainoon. Tutkimuksen tulosten avulla sinulla on myös helpompi neuvotella itsellesi parempi palkka, niin nyt kannattaa vastata. Mä laitan linkin tuonne chattiin kohta ja vastausaikaa on vielä tämä viikko. Tosi kiva, jos ehdit tähän pienen hetken sinun viikosta käyttämään. And back to English now. You can see the chat on your right-hand side. Please use it to comment or ask questions from Alexander. And you can also tell us where you are joining this webinar from today. Would be super nice to see how international we are at the moment. I will jump to the backstage now and give this stage to Teemu and Alexander, and have a good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Alexander. How's life?
Good morning, good morning. Life is good here in Copenhagen, Denmark. Still a bit early. I think we're 1 hour ahead of you, Timo, but we're fresh.
Fresh, 7:30 for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm Teemu Ilola from MarkkinointiKollektiivin, and I'll be kind of hosting this session with Alexander, although he's going to be the main person speaking today. And before we dive into the topic of the day, Alexander, I wanted to ask you a question. What's your favorite phrase in Finnish?
I think it's not a phrase because I'm not good enough yet. So maybe I'll just go with a word. And what is the Finnish word for sauna, Timo?
Sauna.
Yeah. I think
that's it. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Fair game.
Maybe we can do this in a half year from now, and then we can try again. Hopefully, I'm better then.
I'll try to remember when we do this again in 6 months. Okay. And another actual question is for the audience to kind of set the stage. Why should people stay awake for the next 30 minutes when you're going to be presenting?
I think, first of all, when I am personally joining webinars, I really love when there is something concrete shared and some inspiration. And that's also what I've really tried to come with today. Be really concrete, be practical in terms of what I'm going to share. So hopefully after today's call, you have something that you can take with you for the day tomorrow, and maybe already start implementing when it comes to the future of creative work. So that's at least my promise. Yeah.
Nice. That's good. That's good. I'm sure you'll introduce yourself and Zuuvi a bit when you start presenting. So just give the stage to you. You can share your screen and kind of hit play.
Yeah. Thank you, Timo. And I will do that then. So, okay. So as you said, Timo, just to set the scene. First of all, thank you for listening in this morning. You are a lot of people joining this morning, so that is just really, really interesting. And of course, the headline for today and the next 20 minutes or so is how do you make your ads stand out? And hopefully I can share some concrete tips for your creative ad production in 2025. So when I made this presentation for all of you, I really wanted to give you something concrete, as I just answered you, Timo. So basically what I hope that you will get out of today is that a lot of data points. So already beforehand, sorry for that. Take pictures of the screen, and I also know the slides will be shared afterwards. But I really want to show you some data from the market when it comes to creative production and the situation we are standing in the middle of. Secondly, cases from the real world. So not something booped up cases where we really try to tell complex things, but really narrow it down, be concrete, and hopefully we will inspire you by doing some of the same things in your company. The third one is, of course, hands-on guidance. So a concrete guide to you if you should start implementing a scalable creative production flow tomorrow. Where should you start? What should you do? And basically just some guidance in that area. But beforehand, maybe just to set the scene so you know who I am and where I'm coming from. I'm Alexander. I'm the CEO and founder of Zuuvi. A few words on Zuuvi. We are the creative performance platform, and basically we try to empower marketing teams and digital designers to create, manage, and scale personalized ads across programmatic channels. So, of course, the current situation where we need to produce more, we need to stand out in the market. Zuuvi is the platform you log into, and you can then create and scale your creative production. So, of course, we say to ourselves that we have some knowledge in this space that we're going to talk with today. We are a Danish-founded company. Now I'm standing in Copenhagen, but we are present in primarily Europe. Of course, also with a lot of focus on the Finnish market and working with huge clients, both in Finland, but also across Europe. And that is something, some of the knowledge gained from there that I will try and share with you today. So basically what Zuuvi does, small introduction, because again, it's not a sales pitch, this one. It's basically just setting the scene, and then I will transfer over to share some knowledge. But just so you know it, what we're also going to talk about today is, of course, how do you have a red line between the channels that you're online and live on? And what you can do in Zuuvi is basically you can scale your ad production across these 5 strategies: display, social, retail media, in-store screens, and digital out of home, all in one content hub. So that is also where we have sourced a lot of knowledge from, these 5 specific strategies and channels. The platform is built up in 4 areas. We have studio for the designer, we have manager for the marketing person that needs to basically versionize content really fast and go live with it, and automation. That is the place where you are building up data rules and try to be relevant and target the right audience at the right time with the right content. Okay, that was just setting the scene. So hopefully now you know where I'm coming from, what Zuuvi is. And now just let's look into why creativity is the key to success. Let me start out with a fact, because of course, a lot of digital content are flowing through the Zuuvi platform every day. And we can just see a really interesting stat here that on a normal day from morning to evening, you basically scroll 90 meters of digital content. That is, of course, across your phone, your desktop, whatever device you have. It's the same height as the Statue of Liberty or Big Ben in London. And the reason why I think this topic is really interesting right now, if you scroll the same height as the Statue of Liberty, I don't believe that 90 meters, that number will transfer to 200. I basically believe that we are standing in a situation where these 90 meters maybe will go down. So we will consume less, and then we just require and demand higher quality in what we consume. I think that is the situation that we're standing on right now, but also what we will see in 25. A few data points, as I promised you as well. On every normal day, we are exposed to between 5,000 and 10,000 ads. I don't know about you. I can only maybe recall 2 of them I saw yesterday. And of course, a lot of these ads are just something that we are exposed to, but we cannot recall the time after. Especially also because only 4% of digital ads are viewed for more than 1 second. So there is something here that is kind of interesting. We are exposed to a lot of ads, a lot of companies trying to say something to us, and we are not especially with big attention when we see the ads. A new study as well is that, okay, we also have 80% of advertising spend is actually challenged by bad performance. And what does that mean? I think this number is, of course, crazy high in terms of how many money are we actually just putting in the trash, so to say. because we experience the bad performance. But I think I see this as an opportunity. My belief is that in a year or two, if we can get this number down, so we can say, okay, we actually have some really high quality in every impression or close to that we deliver to the market, that at least my goal. And I think there's a driver behind that comes back to the creative quality that we put into these machines that are delivering the performance back to us. And then let's just maybe ask one of the biggest performance machines in the world, Google. Ross here is stating a really, really interesting fact where he said 70% of advertising effectiveness depends on the creative. I think my belief is no matter how good you are in terms of upvoting bits and bytes in your media buying and new audience, etc., better targeting, I think, yes, then you can move the needle a few percentages. But when this is true, that 70% of your performance are depending on your creative, my goal is then today, hopefully, to share with you how can you then upvote your creative and then also upvote your performance, because it is one of the biggest triggers that you can focus on at the moment. So, to be fair, the struggle in the marketing teams are clear, and it is a tough day-to-day work out there, because of course you need to produce a lot more, and then you just have 24 hours a day, 7 hours of that you're working. So I think in terms of that, you're just fed up. And how do we then look at that situation? So what I basically did was that last year I went out and talked with a lot of different, both customers, non-customers to Zuuvi, trying to understand the current situation that marketing teams are sitting in. Hopefully, you can relate to some of the points that I will cover now. So basically, when talking with all these people, I was trying to put a helicopter view on it. Okay, what is the situation? And the current situation is just that you need to produce more and more content, and you should also be live on new channels. Then Pinterest is popping up, TikTok is popping up, new formats, and you need to be there. So the increase in digital content consumption basically forces you as a team into what we call the triangle of problems. So the triangle of problems, and this is again based on the interviews, is covered by 3 personas. First, the designer that needs to produce more and more, and fair enough, the answer to that, I need more people. I need a colleague if I should actually achieve this. Secondly, the marketing manager, where they say, I need to test more and more to gain the insights, even if it's A/B split test. And I just need then more content from the designer to test more and more. The third persona here is, of course, the marketing manager, the marketing director that says, due to third-party data going away, then the data foundation on what looks good and bad is maybe gone or close to gone. So we need to produce more, and it needs to be higher quality. That basically just circles back to the designer that then say, I need to produce more. I don't know if you can relate to this situation where you have the triangle of problems with these 3 personas, but that is at least what I have gained at insight talking with these 300 people last year. Because the typical campaign management flow and how it looks like out in the market, when you take this flow and then put it under the triangle of problems, then it makes sense to me that it is a stressed day, because up to these 40% of marketing budget is spent on creative production, but it's still just being pursued on cost and time. And I think that's something that maybe we can look differently on, because there is this process, and of course there is some steps that you need to do, but it just takes time. There is reviews, that is feedback, that is technical stuff that needs to be changed to go live. It is a complicated flow to manage in a daily life. And then just another stat and another interesting insight is that I see a lot of companies, maybe you can relate as well, that are running in monthly cycles. So you do a monthly campaign that are then updating. And I think what we see from the performance channels at the moment is that they really are eager to get new content. And as a punishment for that, they basically just start declining your performance and deliver ad blindness and ad fatigue for you. So just an insight that we have gained is that based on all the data points we have, it takes between 1 week to 3 months, basically where you can see this ad fatigue. And I think that's kind of interesting that you need to just deliver new content for trying to avoid ad fatigue in your marketing campaigns. So you really need to produce more, and that is of course also what the performance channels want to do. So basically, last year, what we looked into is also how do we then measure creative performance between the designer and the marketing manager and marketing director. And I think just one inspiration to all of you listening in today is that when you have these three roles, these three personas, of course, when you look at let's give an example, the marketing director, they are measured in a KPI like what is the return on ad spend on the total marketing budget, how many meetings are we booked, etc., etc. But there are no shared success KPI for these three personas in the triangle of problems. And I think that's an issue that we can actually be concrete on and try to solve, because the designer also needs a helping hand to visualize the value that they are putting into the marketing machine. So just an inspiration is that what we're using is a metric called creative performance score. A creative performance score is basically a shared metric between the designer, marketing manager, and marketing director. And it is a way to try to measure creativity. Again, to be fair, you can measure creativity 100%, right? It's feelings. It's something about have a concrete messaging at the right time as well. But creative performance score basically covers 3 areas that are really interesting when you try to measure your creative production value and your creative production flow. It's time to market, it's ad performance, and it's cost efficiency. These 3 areas is about, of course, cost efficiency. What does it cost you to produce one ad creative? Time to market. How long does it take from brief, back to the process I showed you before, from brief to done and delivered ad creatives? And then, of course, secondly, performance. What is your main KPI based on the funnel and the target group? If you try to basically look at these 3 areas, you will get out the creative performance score. And I think that's a really, really great way of trying to measure how is your creative production actually delivering back to the performance. So just as an example, I want to show and share with you today a real case from Skanska, one of the biggest construction companies in the world, a Swedish-based company. And Robert is, first of all, a Zuuvi star, but he's also a really, really wise man in terms of digital marketing. And when they are looking at the creative performance score, they're actually using that to measure how is their creative production flow and ties it back with the performance. 82% decrease in production costs, 80% faster time to market, and 29% boost in conversion rate. That is, of course, some of the things that Robert are using and enabling with Zuuvi. Again, this is not a sales pitch for Zuuvi, but just if you look at that process and you try to measure these 3 areas, I hope that you can gain an insight and then say, okay, we are paying a lot for the creatives, but the time to market is fast. Okay, and the performance is not delivering so well. That is just some insights then you need, and you are aware of where you can optimize that process with that insight. Another case I will bring to the table today is a company called Kvik. I know they're also really active in the Finnish market as well. But Kvik is a really, really interesting company, especially because of the journey they have taken the last 2 years. Let me give you an example. What Kvik are doing is that they comes from a setup that I think is not unusual. They have a lot of different tech tools in this process showed you before. And they have a flow where they, of course, maybe have in-house resources, they have agencies to help them, to be consultancy with them, and they have a lot of different tools that are then connected by each other. But just as an example, what Kvik was really, really modern about was that 2 years ago they said, we want to be digital first. We want to nail the process. It should be agile. It should be easy for us to go out with the right messaging at the right time to the right audience in high quality. Basically, what you see here on the slides is that the process before Zuuvi, and I will not dig into it, but then again, you can just switch Zuuvi with another creative performance platform if you want. But it's just to have that streamlined process where they went from the before Zuuvi that you see on the left side to a flow where they have a brief platform. Each marketing manager in each country, it's 13 markets, are briefing into this platform easily and seamless. And then basically all the creatives are auto-produced to display, social media, digital out of home, and in-store screens. On the right side, you see some performance upvote where we really, really look at some interesting insights from them. Of course, first of all, it's high quality at scale in 13 markets. It's improved time to market, but it's also a cost saving. And I think that is my goal. Also, what we are trying to achieve in Zuuvi is that let's free up some time so you can focus in the daily work on what really matters. Having an oversight on the creative performance, measure maybe the creative performance score, and try to navigate on what drives the best performance each day, instead of just making task after task after task about creating a lot of different creatives to different channels. So basically in Kvik's case, they have the data that is transferred out to some templates that are just all happening inside the content hub, inside Zuuvi, and then they are versionized, they are translating all the content to the 13 markets. So back to a point where there was 2.5 employees only focusing on this, they have freed up the total time on 2.5 employees. And then now, again, it's not because they're gone, they should just focus on the quality and how we can move things ahead in big steps and not small steps. Good. So again, when we try to say what is the future of creative production in 2025, I think one of the main topics is how can I go from manual production and hard-coded DCO? DCO is dynamic creative optimization. So how can I go from that to a modern DCO setup in a creative performance platform? I think this situation, maybe you can also relate to that out in the markets, but a situation where we should run intelligent advertising campaigns with the use of data. That is the situation. That is what I want to accomplish. Basically, what you can do there is that you can look at 4 different DCO types: template-based, rule-based, contextual, and retargeting. I will not go into depth with them. Of course, happy to share it afterwards as well. But when you have this process, it's really, really important that it's not a manual flow and it's not hard-coded. Promise me that if you are going into this setup with working with DCOs. Because it's all about how can you centralize, how can you not have hard-coded setups in an Excel sheet that then goes over to the media channel. Because if you should do this, let me then try to be concrete. But first, of course, share a data point with you. If you add these dynamic data can be everything. So that can be product data if you have hundreds of products that you want to use and advertise for. It can be different audience where you, just as an example, you have top funnel and you have middle funnel and bottom funnel. Of course, these 3 groups needs to see some different creatives. And if you need to start this tomorrow, this is my handbook, this is my guide to you. What will I do? And then, of course, you can take out of it what you want. But first, try to ask yourself the question, where is my data? So if you should start running intelligent creatives with the use of data in a scalable setup, ask yourself, where's my data? Do I have the correct data? What is the compliance and data rules I have? And again, data can be stored in your website. Do you have any data in your website? Do you have any data in your maybe a customer data platform, a CRM platform? It can be various places. And again, if you don't have the data, maybe just start creating a Google Sheet with your campaign data. Put in the data points that you should run for next week or next month. Step 2, connect the data to your creatives. So basically, of course, my biggest recommendation, not because I'm coming from Zuuvi, but it is use a creative performance platform. You need a platform that is suitable for collecting all your creatives in one place and distributing across all digital channels. So use a platform like Zuuvi or some of our colleagues in the market, align the data and creatives, and basically just taking the data points and connecting to your creatives. Third step, go live. I can then promise you, it of course sounds really easy, but where's my data? Connect data to your creatives and go live is the third step. And I think to go from 1 to step 3 is actually not so tough. The toughest part is about update and monitoring, because now it's live. Okay, how do we then ensure that we always make it better, that we update it? And I see a lot of issues here, because again, if you come from the manual production, it's really tough to update and monitor because it's manual coding. So basically here, what I would do is that try to test new creative versions and new creative messaging. Promise me that you are choosing a solution where the data and the creative is not combined, because then you can easily change the data or the creative as you go. And then of course, try to update your data source with new data and information. Maybe set up some data rules that says, from this period to this period, I want to show this creative, or from, if it's that audience group, I want to use this version with video or high impact, or what it can be. So that is basically my 1, 2, 3 step guide. And then of course the fourth one. I want to wrap it up because I think we are on time. So what I started with was I made you a promise. I made you a promise that I'm going to share some data from the market. Hopefully that you saw. And then secondly, cases from the real world with Skanska, with Kvik as an example, really trying to say what are they doing in a daily life and how have they solved this increasing demand for content. And then third point, hands-on guidance. Try to be concrete on how do you then scale and how do you build a modern DCO in a creative performance platform. So I think this is the end. Thank you for listening in. I know, Timo, you have a lot of questions, and I can see a lot of questions in the chat as well. So that's just fantastic. But just to wrap it up from my side, it was just a pleasure and to share all this knowledge with you today.
Thank you for sharing, and we have a few minutes for questions, so let's do a rapid fire type of a thing. So quick answers. There was a good question from Pilvi in the chat. What kind of data do you actually need to automate the creative production?
That's a really good question. So data can actually be everything. A lot of the modern creative performance platforms can pass any type of data. So an example is a Google Sheet. So if you are putting in rows in a Google Sheet as an example, and then you click up in the left corner and say publish on the net, then you can take that link and implement in a platform like Zuuvi or some of our colleagues. It can also be a data feed from Channable, from Data Feed Watch, or from your website, just as an example.
All right. Thank you. We also put up a poll when you were speaking of how many ads can people actually remember seeing, and it's not too many. So it's surprising to me that we actually see 5,000 to 10,000 ads per day, as you mentioned. So on that note, if everyone else would start making their ads kind of look like they're not actually ads, would it then actually make sense to, on purpose, make your ads look more like classic ads to stand out?
Interesting question. I think yes, in the short run, to be fairly honest, because we are what we call advertising blindness. We know exactly how an ad looks like, and we just ignore it, even if you scroll through our Instagram feed or whatever we do. But I think In the short run, yes. So if you really want to drive performance in a short run, yes, do that. I will not recommend it. To be fairly honest, I think we're standing in a situation where we can connect the user that sees the advertisement and us that are doing the advertisement better, because we are demanding high quality. So if we're just trying to listening to that demand, I think we have a wise future and a bright future together.
Good. Okay. One more quick one that we got from the audience was, and I know you're biased to answer this, but what are your favorite tools when it comes to this topic?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Like, I think it's now to be serious. I think a great tool is of course Zuuvi. That is one option for you. I think the most important part is don't overcomplicate your MarTech stack when you need to set up the system. So you need a system or a Google Sheet for the data. You need a content platform like Zuuvi or some of our colleagues. And then you need to have a place where you can go live with your creatives, media channels, Google ad form, you name it. So basically don't overcomplicate it. Have these 2-3 systems and start looking there. But of course, I can recommend a system and that's called Zuuvi. Yeah.
Thanks for the recommendation. I thought you might say that.
Yeah.
All right, Emmy, welcome back.
Thank you. And thank you for really good examples. They were very interesting. I came here actually to tell you what's going to happen next week in this Aamukahviseura. And then Jussi Junikka from Fulmore will teach us how to lead a customer acquisition experimentation culture. And that will be held in Finnish. Yeah.
I cannot go on that, unfortunately. But again, 2.5 years, maybe then I can join. But yeah. Maybe just to wrap it up, Teemu, Emmy, and all of you listening in, it was a pleasure being with you this morning, and hopefully you got something out of it. You're really welcome to reach out on LinkedIn or through the Zuuvi website or whatever you can find us. So yeah, just a pleasure being here.
And we shared your link in the chat as well. So thank you for being here, and I'm sure we'll see each other again in less than 6 months.
Sure. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and everybody on the lines joining. Please answer the feedback survey that will soon find its way in your email. And yeah, have a great Tuesday. Thank you for joining.
Great Tuesday, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.